I would like to get up and talk, and maybe this will give people the inspiration after I get through talking to want to be 90 years old and how to be 90 years old.
Okay.
Because I have come this far, 90 years old, and I want to explain to everybody how. Because I use Frank Sinatra as my favorite person. Because remember the song he wrote?
Well, which one? Give me one word in the song, and I'll tell you the song.
I
Did it my way.
Did it my way, of course.
did it my way. So anyway, I want to talk about that, okay?
Okay.
Years ago, when I was in school, I was always a happy-go-lucky guy. I was either making money, stealing junk, or doing some friggin' thing. I always had money. My mother and father didn't have money to give me
Extra.
Unknown caller.
yeah,
Nothing extra.
nothing. So I used to. But anyway, to make a long story short, when I was in the 12th grade, I got a real good job working for the Glen Alden Coal Company in West Pittston. I quit school, so I went to work for the shops, the Glen Alden shops in West Pittston, Pennsylvania. And I worked there for a while.
Try saying that 10 times.
So anyway, I got drafted in the Army while I was there. I had a good
You were
pay.
drafted or you enlisted? Okay.
Anyway, you mind?
Revisionist history, that's okay.
So anyway, I could have gone into the 12th grade. I didn't. I got a job working for the shops in West Pittston, Glen Alden shops. While I was working there for making more money than my father, God bless him, I got drafted in the Army. So I didn't want to go no Army. So I went down, they had the Marine Corps station also in Pittston, West Pittston.
Yeah.
I talked to the guy. He says, I'll tell you what. He says, we're looking for some good men in the Marine Corps. He says, we'll give you a test. If you pass the test, he says, I'll talk to Sergeant Stukatsu over there, and we'll see what happens. I passed the test with flying colors. So anyway, he says, you're in the Marine Corps. He says, you'll have to take a test for the Marine Corps. I passed the friggin' test. They were all a bunch of Lulus anyway. So I went in the Marine Corps, right? Something I wanted all my life. I didn't want to go in the Army. Anyway, time went by. I went in the Korean, what they call the Korean BS conflict. In other words, the Korean bullshit war.
Right.
Okay? So I was stationed at San Diego, California, and a big ship with 10,000 Marines on it was going overseas to Korea. Anyway, halfway there, the war was over. They decided the war was over. They didn't need us. So we went right back to San Diego again. So I got to know the sergeant very well. I said, what the hell am I going to do now? He says, I don't know. Because they're trying to place all these guys. So I says, I'm a musician, Sarge. I want to be a musician. I want to be in the band. He said, who the hell do you think you are? He said, where did you get your knowledge? I said, I went to the Conservatory of Scranton. Yeah, I said, my mother went to the Conservatory of Wilkes-Barre. He said, I'll tell you what. He says, we're having an audition over at the warehouse. He says, I'll call Sergeant Bly up, tell him you'd like to come over and get an audition. If you pass the audition, he says, you could be in the Marine Corps band. He says, you won't have to be on my balls anymore. He said, get the hell out of here. He called up and talked to Bly. He says, I'm sending Private Asshole Buscemi over there. No, I was PFC at the time. Over there, he said, and he wants an audition. He said, who the hell? So I go over there and I talked to him. I said, sir, I would like to join the band. He said, what instrument do you play? I said, well, I played tuba. When I was in the Marine Corps, in the Pittston High School band, I played tuba, blah, 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 a whole lot of bullshit. He said, well, he said, these auditions are very easy to take. He says, what can you do? I said, I don't know. He said, well, at this time, he says, we have the score of the Poet and Peasant Overture. Jesus Christ, I nearly dropped dead. That's the only friggin' thing I could play when I was in the high school band. In fact, I used to go on tour. Believe everything I say. I used to go on tour.
We do, Dad.
Okay, all right.
And you believe me, right?
I used to go on tour doing the poet. He said, the Poet and Peasant Overture. He said, do you realize the score, the music that's involved? Yes, I said, I really do, sir. I says, if you don't mind, what I would like to do is go up on the stage and take the introduction to the Poet and Peasant Overture. When I get through the introduction, I said, I'll kind of go like that, and then you cue the band in on the real good finale, which was the introduction. He looked at Sergeant Tchaikovsky. Where do they get these fucking assholes from? He said, how come they didn't get him when he was over in Korea? He said,
You didn't make it there.
yeah, so he says, go ahead. So I go up on the stage. You probably all heard this. So anyway, with my tuba, big double B flat. Now there's an E flat and an A flat tuba. This was a double B flat tuba, one of the big ones. So I looked at him, he says, go ahead. So I started. Big sound, big old. Then I went 3 octaves above the scale. And I went to the instructor, and he came in with the band. Ba 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 ba. He said, "My God," he says, "Where did you come from? Where?" So he says, "I'll tell you what." He says, "I'll send the truck over to your barracks, and they get your locker box and all the rest of your shit, your junk and beer, whatever, whiskey, whatever you have. We'll move them over to the band barracks."
Nice.
He says, "And you are automatically in the band. Sign some papers, and you're in the band." So I said, "Thank you very much, sir." And I was in the band. That's number 2 that I accomplished. So anyway, I stayed in the band for the next year and a half or 2 years. Then I got out of the band, and I came home. So, make a long,
To where? Pennsylvania?
pardon?
Home to Pennsylvania?
Pennsylvania. This all happened in
Right.
Pennsylvania.
Right.
Then your mother and I decided to move to Rochester. And anyway, that was number 2 accomplishment. But anyway, I wanted to be a band director. And when I came to Rochester, I went to the Eastman School of Music. And I told them that I wanted to be a band director. And they said, well, you have to go to the, where the band is, the Rochester Philharmonic or something like that at the time. I go over there and knock. The lady says, well, come on in. She says, sit down, Mr. Buscemi. I says, yeah. She says, what? Well, I said, I was in the Marine Corps, blah, blah. And she says, well, you know, she says, in order to join the band, she says, you have to be rich. She says, you have to quit whatever you're doing. Do you have any children? I says, 2 or 3, maybe another one a lot. She said, I'm sorry. She says, you have to have a lot of money to join the band. So I says, okay. So I went home, I told Claire, you know, your mother, and she says, yeah. But then I was having music all over the place. I always had a 2 or 3 piece band going. So then, between all jobs, I always...
Maestros.
Pardon?
That was one of your bands,
But
the Maestros.
the Maestros. Remember that? That was the name of the... my.
Yeah.
I played all. I made more
Those
friggin'
guys,
money.
those dudes.
So then I had many jobs. I even worked for my brother, which was a total stroke. So then I decided to, I would like to work on the railroad in East Rochester.
It's right over there. It's close to where we are.
Pardon?
It's not too far from where you're sitting,
Oh,
where
okay.
you worked. Yeah.
So I went out there. And this big German guy come out. He said, what the hell do you want? Well, sir, I said, I'd like to get a job. I says, I'd like to. He says, I said, just came out of the service, I says, and I need the money. I have a family. Big, tall German guy, Grogowski or some damn thing.
It was the New York Central Railroad at the time,
Right.
which turned into the Penn Central Railroad, but it was
New York Central. Then
when
they
you got
merged
the
with
job.
the
with Pennsylvania Railroad, and then it became
right
It's
Penn
not
Central.
still there, is it?
Then they called it Penn Central. He says, "What man? No. He said, "What branch of the service were you in?" I said, "I was in the Marine Corps." He says, "Son of a bitch." He says, "My brother was in the Marine Corps. Where were you stationed?" Well, I gave him more bullshit. He said, "I'll tell you what." He says, "Fill this form out."
Papers out. Ooh, is that a book? What is that?
He said,
Go down there. I don't have any yet.
"Fill this form out right now." I don't, what the hell? I put a lot of bullshit on there that I couldn't even believe myself. So he looked at it, he ripped it up, he says, "Start work tomorrow morning." He said, "Be here at 7 o'clock tomorrow morning." And he said, "I'll find a place for you." He said, "What can you do?" I says, "Well," I says, "I'm a blacksmith." I'm a yeah. He says, "So's my wife." So I went in there and they got a place for me, and I worked on the railroad for a long time.
How long?
About 12 or 13 years, until they merged with Pennsylvania.
Penn Central, right.
Pennsylvania was a total bust.
Yeah.
So Penn Central went down the tubes, and they were giving others jobs or whatever. But anyway, I got a mustering out pay for $13,000. I really made out on that.
Mm-hmm.
So I put it in the bank. So then I got a job working for
Rolling engraving?
Rolling Engraving.
Monroe
Rolling.
Forgings or
Rolling engraving.
Rolling Engraving.
Jefferson Road, not too
Yeah.
far from here.
I
That
think
didn't
that's
work.
still there.
I think it is too.
I didn't like that too hot, too much. So I got a job working for what the hell?
Why didn't you like it, Dad?
Oh, it was a lot of bullshit. And there was no money involved.
Okay,
and
so
all.
money.
Right. So then I got a job working for.
Monroe Forgings.
Thank you. Monroe Forgings.
I don't remember where that was located.
It was off of Buffalo Road.
Okay, I never went there. So.
Industry Road.
So I worked there for a while, and so anyway, I told the boss down there, I said, "What the hell? What do you call this bullshit?" He said, "Well," he says, "we do have an opening for a metallurgist." I said, "That's my field." In fact, if you look at my knees and you look at Cindy's knees, total replacements, they were made out of titanium.
Yeah.
I had read up on titanium, so I could talk about titanium. In fact, that's what my two knees are made out of, titanium. I think yours are too, honey, right? They're going to last forever. Titanium, like I said, I did a big read up on this. Titanium, the density is 10 pounds of iron, stainless steel and all that, to 1 pound of titanium. That's the resiliency, the strength in the... So I told the boss, I said, "Well, blah, blah, blah." He said, "How the fuck you know so much?" He said, "I don't even know that much." He says, "You'll start working tomorrow." He says, "In the titanium department, checking the rings, this and that, blah, blah." So to make a long story short, I got in there through this bullshit session that I got in there, and I loved it. I worked there for I forget how many years till I retired,
Yeah,
and I was coming
So
and going like
long time, huh?
I think so.
I was
I don't
coming
know how
and
many years, but yeah.
going like a yo-yo. So finally I decided that I had enough
Yeah.
because my knees were shot.
How old were you when you retired?
62.
It was, yeah, the
Wow.
earliest as he could. I think that was right after then Mom and Dad moved out to Holland.
62 years old.
He
And most
commuted
people
a short
retired when they were
time.
65.
Okay.
He was ready to retire.
But 62, you
like
took a lower
the beginning
rate
of the new
than
year or something.
65.
28 years. That's, is it
Know what I'm
28
saying?
years? 20
Yeah.
So John,
years ago.
I retired when I was
Wow.
62
Wow.
with the thought in mind I was going to try to get a job as a music director again. So I was getting a retirement pension from Rolling Engraving.
You were
Not
music
Rolling.
director for the Sweden Singers.
Pardon?
You were the music director for the Sweden Singers.
Swingers.
The
Swingers. What did I say?
Right, you're
The Swedens.
right. 13 people.
They were
Yeah,
swingers.
the Sweden swingers.
You're making it up.
No.
And
That was fun.
anyway,
Your music directing job.
yeah, but man, I was going out playing Friday, Saturday, sometimes Sunday nights.
Were they really
I was making a
swingers?
good buck, making a damn good buck. And anything I ever wanted in life, my advice to you all is you want something bad enough, go out there and get it. It's there for you. If you've got to bullshit your way, anything but don't use a gun, John.
That's where you draw the line.
And so the sad part of my life was, which it was not her fault, or I had a very sickly wife, as you know. And but I still went out and played. I still did things. She never stopped me from doing anything. Yeah.
She wanted to get rid of you, get you out of the house.
See what?
She wanted you out of the house.
Yeah. So then we bought the house on what was the first house? Child. The
Yep,
first
Child Street.
Child
That's
Street.
going way back.
So anyway, listen to this bullshit. I used to work with the guy. In fact, he used to work with me. He was my helper at Monroe Forgings. John Gallo. And he had this big house on Child Street.
Right.
So I said, John, I hear you had that house. He said, yeah, he says, I have it up for sale, Charlie. He says, you interested? I said, well, yeah, I'd like to talk to you because at the time we were staying on St. Paul Street. I don't know if you guys remember St. Paul Street.
I was too little.
We were renting there.
Right.
So he says, you want to buy my house? I said, yeah, I said, I want to buy your house. So anyway, he says, come on over my house tonight and we'll talk about it. Good plan. So I went over there. I knew his two sons. His two sons had a shop out past, you know where we had the cottage? What was the next town?
Before Williamson.
Williams.
Yeah,
No,
it
no,
was
no.
before.
His son
Before
had, I
Sons.
knew his sons real
Huron.
good.
I think it was.
So
at-
his sons,
I think it
his
was
sons
before-
were there.
I think it was before you
So I said,
got our cottage. I'm pretty sure. Because I remember you had friends in Williamson.
right.
Yeah.
So anyway, we were there. He had his lawyer there, and I'm sitting there. His two daughters. We were all sitting around. He said, "Okay, Charlie, this is my daughter. This is my wife." He said, "Charlie," he says, "how much you want to give me for the house?" I said, "Well," I said, "John," I said, 5,000 is what I can afford." 5,000? He says, "You're kidding." He says, "I gotta have time." Blah, 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 blah. And the son went up. He said, "Daddy, you out of your fucking mind?" He says, "That house isn't even worth 2,000. It needed a lot of fixing." But he said, "How about 55,000? 5,500.
Right.
No, I said, "John, if I give you 5,500, you gotta restore all the electricity, the plumbing, the this and the that." And so finally he said, "Okay." And his son went up to him and he was, "Daddy," he says, because his son was on my side. The lawyer was laughing, his daughters were all laughing. It's okay, he says, "I'll sell you the house for $5,000.
You saw the house, right?
Pardon?
You had saw the house, right?
Oh yeah, I used to go through the house all the time.
Okay.
So anyway, so I sell you the house for $5,000. Now, he says, "How much you gonna put down?" I said, "How much am I gonna put down?"
You had no money to put
I
down.
says, "John, are you kidding?" And his lawyer started laughing his ass off. I said, "John, I can't put nothing down. I don't have no money to put down on the."
Keep going, Dick. I'm just.
So anyway,
I didn't realize.
his lawyer said, "Now, how are you going to pay for this house? How are you going to?" So he says, "As low as possible." So anyway, he was charging me $38.98 a month for 10 years.
Wow.
And so he says, "Can you afford $38?" So I bought the house and we moved in and we fixed the house. You don't remember,
I
Chuck?
do a little bit.
A little
Yeah,
bit.
a little
Oh, I
bit.
went through the whole house, fixed the whole house
Yeah.
up and all. And
It
yeah,
was a nice house.
pardon?
It was a nice house.
Oh yeah. So his lawyer and everybody were laughing. They said, "My God," they said, "Where the hell did you get this guy from?" the point I'm trying to make here is, even up to the present day, anything I ever wanted, anything I ever wanted to accomplish or do, I got it. I got it, John. I got
Yeah.
it. One way or the frig another,
So how are you going to wrap up this story?
by saying, if you want something and you want it bad enough, of course you guys don't want anything or want anything that bad enough. You gotta go out there. You gotta go out there and get it. You got to really, really push for it.
Yeah.
What could I say? That's the
Get
story.
that, Dave?
I got
That's
that.
the story of my life.
So what advice you have now that you've just turned 90 years old?
Just keep doing what you're doing and never give up. Regardless, I've got all kinds of problems, physical problems. Don't let anything get you down. Just keep going all the time, and you'll get there.
And in closing, what do you want to say to your grandchildren?
God bless you all, and I hope I'm here another 10 years, 5 years, to celebrate another party. And I just want to say that thanks to you and Patty, we're all sitting here together, having the time, and that's the way it is.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Happy birthday, Dad.
Thank you, John.